Hey guys, it's me, Becca, and welcome to my little patch of the internet. Today I'm going to be filming another React video, and I'm going to do another Mr. Nightmare video. It's really annoying because I actually filmed a video yesterday, and I did a screen recording, but it only recorded the video, not the audio of the video. So that was really annoying. Let's try it again. And I wasn't really feeling it anyway, and the stories weren't that scary, so I'm like, eh. And since it is summer, and that means people travel, I am going to react to very scary true travel horror stories. You're welcome. Let's do it.
I like to travel, but I don't like to travel alone. So sometimes I'll pay the way for the girl I'm seeing at any time to accompany me. One of the more memorable trips was my trip to Costa Rica with this girl Julie I was seeing. We stayed at the Four Seasons, a damn beautiful resort in every way. The trip was memorable, not just for its beauty, but the insanely weird and disturbing experience we had towards the end. We were staying there 4 nights, which, trust me, already cost me a pretty dollar. Life was honestly amazing for the first 3 days. On night 3, late at night after we ate dinner and sat on the beach watching a fire show, the pool and public area slowly started to clear out until it was just us awake. We decided to run to the room to grab the bottle of tequila we had and a few mixers and bring it to the hot tub by the pool. We had some fun drinking and whatnot in the hot tub, but it was interrupted when I noticed through the plants someone was on the other side, creeping. Someone was crouching down as if they were spying on us in the hot tub. I shouted hey, and then got out of the hot tub, which, let's face it, getting out of a pool or hot tub takes a few seconds to do. By the time I was out on the concrete and on the walkway, I saw someone hurrying away before turning the corner and disappearing. Julie was telling me to come back and leave it alone, but I ran ahead and turned that corner that the man had just turned. When I did, I saw nothing but an empty, dark trail toward the units. When I went back to the hot tub, Julie and I had a mild laugh about it, but really the vibe was dead because we didn't feel like we had privacy anymore. So the way back from the pool section to the units, you had to walk a path that's pretty dark at night. It was right between the buildings to one side and jungle on the right. When we got directly across from our unit, which was on the first floor, to the right in the jungle, we heard rustling. This rustling stood out because it sounded bigger and more intense. It sounded human-made. Julie was scared and said, "Let's go in, please." I told her to go and gave her the wooden key card. I took a closer look into the jungle, and I started to hear this buzzing sound. It didn't sound like a bug or animal. It sounded like a human making a low grumbling or buzzing noise with their throat. Whatever or whoever was in there scattered away deeper into the jungle, and I was left with my heart in my throat. I hurried to follow Julie inside of the room and slammed the door shut. It felt like someone was here stalking us now. We just went to bed. They couldn't get into a locked room. The next day, while we were lounging by the beach, we told one of the workers about the weird encounter last night, just as a warning for other guests and workers about the strange behavior. We stayed there for a few hours, and during that time, a man dressed as an employee came up to us with a camera and told us to smile and pose, so we did. He took a picture, then smiled and said thanks, and he walked away. We watched, expecting him to go up to other people or couples and take more pics, but when we looked up again, the guy was completely gone. Also worth noting, every other worker at this place was Costa Rican. This dude was white, which, listen, that's not the craziest thing ever, but, this dude was whiter than us. Julie and I noted that amongst ourselves. Skipping ahead to that night, things were nice.
That's so creepy.
We got dinner again, watched the sunset, explored around a little more, and relaxed. We had an early flight the next morning, so we called it pretty early. We were exhausted and fell asleep pretty easily. However, I woke up to a still dark room. Our suite had a patio with a big sliding door, and the patio was screened off to prevent bugs getting in. We left that door open at night to hear the sounds of the animals and the waves outside, but I heard something else out there. I thought for sure it was the sound of a camera beeping as it took a picture. I was 30% sure of it, until I heard it again. It was the shudder and beep of a camera. I sat upright, and I could see a silhouette standing on the other side of the screen in the patio. I shouted hey again, sounding angry, but deep down terrified. All I saw of this person was their black silhouette, and I watched as their silhouette ran away into the darkness. Julie woke up, and I told her the truth of what I saw. I slammed the patio door shut, and I called the front desk. I made a very loud and anxious report of what just happened and asked them to send someone right away. An employee came 10 minutes later, and I told them everything about the stalker the night before, the man with the camera on the beach, and now this. The guy said they don't have employees walking around taking pictures, which confirmed that it was the same person. In fact, it might have been the same person stalking us the past 2 days. I demanded a new room because we didn't feel safe. They also said they'd check all the video surveillance from the past 2 days. We were moved to another suite closer to the front hall. We kept the patio door in this one shut, obviously. We woke up early the following morning for our flight. We had a shuttle service offered from the resort to the airport. While checking out at the front desk, they showed us the video footage of the man who was stalking us. He was creepily walking around the resort. He only took pictures of us based on the videos we were shown. It was the most horrifying, confusing thing. We couldn't stay for too long because we were in a hurry, but they told us if they found the man, action would be taken. We were just relieved to be leaving there. I followed up with the resort a few days later, and they apologized for not having any updates, which was disappointing. I don't see Julie anymore, but this was a really crazy and disturbing story the two of us share that I sometimes want to reach out to her about just to talk about again. When people think about traveling, oftentimes they think about traveling somewhere with a beach. That's because most people need a break from their job or school to get away, and what better place to unwind than on a nice, relaxing beach? This story, unfortunately, was not a relaxing getaway. A couple of years ago, my girlfriend Allie and I took a trip down south to enjoy some much-needed vacation time. We live in New Hampshire, which is beautiful, but we wanted some of that southern sun. We booked a trip to Key West, Florida. Allie hates to fly, so we made the over 24-hour drive to Florida. We got to Florida a few days later, and we were blown away by how amazing our resort was. We were right by the ocean. The trip was everything we needed. Most of the trip served its purpose until one terrifying night. Allie and I were lying on the beach watching the moon reflect off the water. I started to be romantic and sweet, feeding her mushy lines. At first, she was loving it. Then I noticed she got quiet. I asked if she was still alive, and she apologized for getting quiet. She said she got distracted by two people who were standing kind of close to us. She said it looks like they were staring at us. Just as I sat up, we saw the two people walk up to us. It was an objectively beautiful girl, but she looked off for some reason. She had wild curly hair. From what I could see of her eyes, they looked very dark. She had just a beach cover up over her bathing suit, and she was with a man. I assume it was her boyfriend because she was holding his hand in a loving way. He was wearing a red flannel that was unbuttoned with no shirt underneath, and just plain bathing suit shorts. Even at night, it was very warm for a flannel. Once they got over to us, they just stood there. They were standing uncomfortably close.
Ew.
Because we were basically lying down, they were standing over us, both of them just looking at us, smiling for no reason that I could think
Oh,
of.
no.
Finally, Allie said, "Excuse me, can we help you with
so
something?"
Creepy.
The woman, still smiling, said in a slow, soft voice, "You two are quite beautiful, you know." I was
Looking
completely
for,
speechless and at a loss for words. My girlfriend just said,
Swingers?
"Thanks, you can leave us alone now."
Yeah.
Allie's one to
thanks.
speak her mind. The woman
can
looked at
leave
me,
now.
and then at Allie, and then said in a haunting voice, "No thank you." All while this was going on,
Oh?
she still continued to smile. After a moment, another couple came over. I thought they may have been coming over to help us. I'm sure our body language wasn't exactly welcoming. I couldn't have been more wrong. The couple came over, and again were standing right over us. Just like the other two people, both of them were smiling. This woman also had a cover-up on, but was sporting some pigtails that were not even close to symmetrical. Her boyfriend had really
that's
curly, shaggy-looking hair.
Really creepy. That's fucking weird.
The woman from before looked up at them and said, "Look, a new couple." I didn't know if I was being pranked by the locals or if this was real life.
It was
I know they
real
weren't
life.
doing anything particularly threatening at this point, but my alarm bells were screaming. The unsettling smiles and stoic posture just didn't have a good vibe. I was pretty unsettled, and these four people just kept inching closer and closer to Allie and I. They had gotten so close that the one girl's foot was touching my leg. I could tell Allie had hit her breaking point. I finally stood and stepped up to one of the guys and said, "Take one more step." I thought maybe if I stepped up to them, they would back off. I'm a bigger guy, but I'm not very intimidating. All four of these beach lunatics laughed. I was angry and annoyed, but I almost felt comforted by the laugh. I was thinking maybe the laugh was confirmation of this being a joke. Once again, I was wrong. While the others continued to laugh, one of the guys lunged at me. I had no time at all to defend myself. Both men started to beat me up, and I couldn't do anything. While this was happening, I could hear Allie screaming, and both girls just sat there and laughed. She tried to intervene, but the second girl pushed her down. The two guys then picked me up and slammed me down in the sand next to Allie. And with a blink of an eye, all their smiles turned into faces of anger. One of the men started to fumble his way through an inside pocket of the red flannel. Even though I didn't see it, I knew he was looking for a pocket knife or some other kind of weapon. Somehow, I had the mindset to pull off an unthinkable move. I don't know what came over me in the moment, but I kicked the ankle of one of the girls because she was still so close to me. Her stumbling in the sand distracted all of them for a moment. In this split second, I grabbed Allie's hand, and we ran as fast as we could to our resort. I looked back one time as we were running, and we could see the two couples standing there, not chasing us. We got back to the resort, locked the doors, and turned the lights off.
Holy shit.
It was horrible. I still don't know why, but we didn't call the police. At that moment, we didn't want to bring any attention at all to our location. The next day, we checked out early from the hotel so we could leave for home. The entire time we loaded up the car and checked out, we kept looking over our shoulder. We didn't want to risk running into these mysterious strangers again. As we were leaving the hotel and walking to our car, we saw the two girls on the corner of the street. They didn't see us. We didn't know what to do. As we were pulling out of the parking lot, we had to pass the corner where they were standing. As we drove by them, both girls noticed us. They smiled and waved like we were old friends. Once we hit the road, Allie called the resort and informed them what happened. They apologized and said they would look into the matter.
No, they're not.
I'm not sure if anything was actually ever done.
No.
I realized that this isn't your typical scary ghost story or whatever, but it was so much worse. We're lucky we got out of there with no physical injuries. Unfortunately, the memory of this horrible night will most likely stay with me forever.
You know, that's pretty fucking terrifying. That's really scary. They're just smiling and, hey, go away. No, I'm okay. We're okay. What? Are you guys on drugs? Or are you part of some, like, cult or something? Hey, look, another couple. Oh my god, okay, that one's terrifying. That was crazy. Okay, I'm gonna do one more. I am going to do another summer themed one. Sleepovers are pretty big in the summer, so I'm gonna do that one. Sleepover horror stories. Again, you're welcome.
When I was in high school, I wasn't exactly a popular kid. I wasn't bullied or anything like that. I just wasn't the kid who was invited to every party, and that was okay. My parents were strict, so strict that it reached the level of annoyance.
Not me.
I was rarely allowed to do anything, so not being invited to parties and other gatherings worked out. All through high school, I basically had one friend, Evan. His parents were more strict than mine. Whenever I was allowed to do anything, it was only with Evan. One weekend during senior year, my parents were going out of town. Even though I was 18 at that time, my parents still didn't want me to stay home alone, which seems ridiculous to me, but every parenting style is different. I begged them for weeks leading up to their trip to let me stay at home alone. I told them I would invite Evan to sleep over so I wouldn't be alone, and we'd just stay in and play video games. My parents finally agreed, and for the first time in my life, I felt a minor shred of independence. This is where my story is about to take a dark turn. Friday night, we ordered a bunch of pizza and wings and played Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't recall the exact time, but it was late, and the doorbell rang. It scared both of us. When you're not expecting the doorbell to ring, especially late into the night, it would scare you as well. We didn't answer it right away.
Don't answer it.
Evan said it might have just been a mistake, and we should probably just ignore it. A few seconds later, the doorbell rang again. He tried to hold me back, but I told him I needed to answer it in case something bad happened to my parents. The bell rang again. After 3 rings, this wasn't a mistake. Somebody had to be out there. My heart was racing,
Still don't
and I
answer
opened the
the
front
door.
door, knowing that the screen door was still locked. I was shocked to find nobody standing there. I looked out the screen window on the door, and from my vantage point, I didn't see anyone walking down the street or off the property. I thought about going out front and looking around, but my scared nature got the better of me.
No,
I went back and told Evan it had to be a mistake. I told him nobody was out there. Obviously, we were both on edge the rest of the night. Morning came, and we went outside for a while. We sat out there and talked for hours. That night, we had leftover pizza and continued playing video games. At 1:13 in the morning, my doorbell rang again.
Nope.
This was not a coincidence anymore. I felt terrified, but I still got up and approached the door. The doorbell rang again as I forcibly opened the door. This time, behind the screen was an elderly woman. She was a short woman with white hair and wrinkled skin, and she had a long coat on even though it was almost 70 degrees that night. I never thought of an old woman as unsettling, but standing on my doorstep at this hour made me think twice about that.
Oh, yeah.
She had a weird smile on her face. Finally, she spoke. She asked if Mr. Walker was home. I told her that nobody by that name lives here. Her smile slowly faded, and then she sort of made a noise that sounded sympathetic. She smiled big again and said, "Oh yes, that's right. Mr. Walker doesn't live here anymore." I forced a smile and told her to have a good night, but before I could close the door all the way, she spoke up again. She asked if Joe was still around. I told her she had the wrong house and that I would appreciate it if she would leave. She started to laugh. She said that Joe was still inside the house, and I asked her what she meant by that. She continued laughing and told me that she could hear him inside. I said okay and slammed the door. As I walked away, I could still hear her laughing outside. Evan started to question what had happened, and I told him to be ready to call the police, just in case this woman who was clearly insane didn't want to leave. A few minutes later, I looked out the front windows and saw her standing in the middle of the street facing my house. It was dark and kind of hard to see, but I'm pretty sure she was still smiling. At 3 in the morning, I looked out the window again, and she was still standing in the same spot. For almost 2 hours she stood out there. I decided at that point that I had enough. I was going to yell through the screen door to go away, or I was going to call the cops. As I opened the door, I didn't have time to shout at her, because she started to sprint at my front door at a shocking speed. I can't even begin to describe how terrifying it is to see someone that old move that fast.
That's crazy.
It seemed unnatural.
That's so scary.
Before she got to the house, I slammed the front door and screamed.
Holy shit.
Evan came over to the front door to see what was going on. Before I could even explain, I saw Evan standing there like a statue. He said, "The window." I looked back at the window next to the front door, and looking through the glass window was the old woman smiling. She was bending sideways in an almost unnatural way. I grabbed the house phone and called the police. For a few minutes, the woman stood in the exact spot, staring through the window and not moving. A couple of minutes before a squad car arrived, she left. I could tell the cop was apprehensive about everything we told him. At the end of the day, we were just a couple of high school kids telling a story about an unnaturally fast and athletic elderly woman. I wouldn't believe me either. He took our statements and left. In case it wasn't obvious already, we didn't sleep that night. I expected her to show up as soon as the cop left, but thankfully she never came back that night. My parents came home late Monday morning. I wasn't going to tell them what happened, but eventually I caved in. I didn't like lying to my parents, and not telling them that I called the police made me feel like I was keeping something big from them. As I told them the story, both of my parents looked sick, but not for the reason I thought. They didn't seem to be concerned about the old woman terrorizing us from the street. They were more afraid of what she said when she initially showed up, when she asked about Mr. Walker and Joe. I had just assumed that these were just random people that this old crazy woman mentioned, but as it turned out, it was much darker. My parents decided to finally tell me that when they bought the house when I was 5 years old, they got a great deal on it because a man murdered his wife and then himself. His name was Joe. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was terrified. This woman said she could still hear him inside. I wish that's where the story ended, but things are about to get even more disturbing. My dad told me there was more. The reason we moved out of our first house when I was 5 years old was that this man, who called himself Mr. Walker, would terrorize my family and stalk our house. He would call at all hours of the night, threatening my dad, and even show up on the doorstep and continuously try to break in. My parents called the police many times, but they couldn't do anything. This went on for months. My dad, who used to hunt, had rifles and would stay up all night and try to catch Mr. Walker. One night, Mr. Walker successfully broke into the house, and my dad took a shot. He didn't know if he missed him or hit him in the shoulder. He ran away, and my dad never saw him again. We moved away a few weeks later, and after that ordeal is when my parents became so strict. It took me a while to process everything my parents told me. We still have no idea who that woman was and how she knew so much, especially about Mr. Walker. That night with Evan happened 16 years ago now. During that time, the woman never came back. I don't live at home anymore, but whenever I visit my parents, I find myself looking out that front window, just wondering where that old woman went. Maybe my parents were cursed, I don't know. I just hope all the dark clouds that followed us for years have finally gone away.
That's terrifying.
This isn't your typical scary story that you hear every day. There's no ghosts or demons or creepy stalkers, just a potential confirmation that monsters are real and they can literally live next door to you. For the majority of my life, I never really thought of this story as scary. It was just recently that I started to think about this story differently, and now I think it's horrifying. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I was in 5th grade, so I was likely around 10. I had a lot of friends in and outside of school. In the middle of the school year, we got a new student in the class. His name was Alfred. He was a little awkward. It's hard being the new kid, and it's even harder to be the new kid halfway through the year. I remember some of my friends making fun of him because of his name. I felt bad, but it didn't look like it bothered Alfred that much. His family moved into the house that was directly next door to mine. We rode the bus together and walked home together. I realized in those short walks that he and I had a lot in common that my other friends didn't like. We both loved professional wrestling, which my other friends hated with a passion. We bonded over this general interest for a couple of months, but we never hung out outside of school. Even in school, our conversations were brief. One Friday afternoon, when I got home from school, my mom was on the phone. She told me she was talking to Alfred's mom on the phone. His mom apparently told my mom that he's been struggling in school and that she thinks it's because mostly everyone is mean to him except for me. She asked my mom if I could come over for a sleepover that night. I liked the kid fine, but I didn't want to sleep at his house. My friends would kill me if they found out.
Nice.
My mom, being the nice woman she is, told Alfred's mom that I would love to stay over. I didn't try fighting with my mom because I knew this would be an argument I would lose. I figured I could talk wrestling and I would just make the best of it. I went over in the late afternoon. His parents were super nice. His dad was wearing a wrestling shirt and was outgoing. He was doing a bunch of impressions and started talking to me about wrestling, and I was honestly having a good time. As it got late, his parents told us that they were going to bed and that we could stay up as late as we wanted, as long as we weren't loud and didn't go in the basement. After they went upstairs, I asked him why we couldn't go in the basement, and he told me that his dad has stuff down there for his job that's dangerous. I thought that was weird, but I shrugged it off. We hung out for a while, and eventually we went to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I just didn't sleep well when I wasn't home. During the night, I heard his dad come downstairs. I pretended like I was sleeping. A few seconds later, I heard him walk away and open a door in the connecting hallway. He closed the door behind him, and I could hear footsteps descending from the vent near my head. I thought it was weird that his dad woke up in the middle of the night and went into the basement, but I didn't really care. Then I heard a strange, muffled sound coming from the vent. It sounded like a TV, but a little more static. It was probably close to an hour, and the distorted sound ended, and I heard him come upstairs again. I fell asleep not long after that. When I woke up in the morning, Alfred's dad was making breakfast. He was the same vibrant guy I had met yesterday afternoon. While we were eating, he started talking about older wrestling. Alfred perked up and told me that I had to watch some of these matches because they were amazing. His dad said to me that if it was okay with my parents, I could stay over again, and that he would grab some tapes from the basement for us to watch. I said okay because I wasn't planning on doing anything else anyway, and I thought it would be cool to watch some old wrestling that I'd never seen before. He told us he had to run out for a few hours, but when he came back, we would watch some tapes if I was still over. I was excited. I remember thinking to myself that he must have gone down into the basement last night to watch some old wrestling. My mom said I could stay over again. I started talking to Alfred about some of the tapes, and he was going into details of awesome-sounding matches I needed to see. I told Alfred I heard his dad go into the basement last night, and it sounded like he was watching something. He seemed confused, like he didn't understand why his dad would go into the basement in the middle of the night. I suggested maybe we go down into the basement and look at his legendary wrestling tape collection. Alfred looked nervous. Being the terrible friend I was, I told him that he wouldn't even know we went down there. He was reluctant, but agreed. I think he just wanted to be agreeable because he didn't want to jeopardize our new friendship. We snuck into the basement, and it looked like a typical old basement. In the back of the basement was this creepy yellow wooden door with spray paint on it that said, "Get out." He said that it was like that when they moved in, and his dad thought it was cool, so he left it. He opened the door, and it was an entire wall of shelves with videotapes on them. The opposite side of the shelves next to the door was an older TV with a VCR. I started looking at the videotapes, and every one of them was labeled with a piece of tape that listed the wrestling event and year. I noticed a few tapes scattered among the hundreds of videotapes that would say things like Wrestling Tape 1 and Wrestling Tape 2, and so on. Everything else was detailed. It felt weird that these ones were so basic. I grabbed the tape that said Wrestling Tape 2. Alfred asked what I was doing, and I told him I wanted to see what was on one of these random tapes. He told me to hurry up so we wouldn't get in trouble. I inserted the tape, and instead of wrestling coming up, it was static, grainy footage of a red backdrop. Everything on the screen was red. The only other thing in the fuzzy image was a wooden chair. Nothing was happening in the image on the screen, but in the background, you could hear screaming. The type of screaming that still lingers in your head decades later. Just as I was about to eject the tape, a man in a mask came onto the screen in a disturbingly cheerful voice and said to the camera, "Stay tuned. You'll want to see what happens next." He started to laugh as the screams just outside the camera view got louder.
Oh?
Alfred stopped the VCR and said he heard a car outside. We turned the TV off and ran upstairs as fast as we could. His dad came inside and was acting goofy, just like he had been for all of our other interactions. His dad went downstairs, and when he did, I remembered that I forgot to eject the tape and put it back. I didn't say anything to Alfred. An hour later, his dad came upstairs, and he looked angry. He wasn't acting silly and outgoing anymore. He came to the living room and told me that I needed to go home, then walked away. That next Monday, Alfred wasn't in school. When I got home, I went over to his house to see if he was okay. He answered the door. He said his family was moving immediately because his dad got a new job. I asked if he was okay since he looked like he was crying, and after a strangely long pause, he mumbled he was okay. His dad emerged from one of the rooms behind him, and Alfred just said he needed to go and shut the door on me. I thought it was weird that he was just moving abruptly. Literally the next day, he was gone. Our teacher made an announcement at school that he wasn't coming back, and of course, nobody cared. It was years later when I brought up the story again to a bunch of friends when we were hanging out. One of my friends started freaking out and telling me this story about something called the Red Room, which was only accessible on the dark web, something I had never heard of. I told them that this was way before the internet had videos because it was on VHS tape, and my friend suggested that maybe this was some kind of early form of what the Red Room would become. As the years passed and I continued telling the story, more and more people started to agree with the Red Room theory. The more I read about this stuff, the more it makes sense. As an adult, if I think about this story too much, I start to lose sleep. I sincerely hope that whatever this tape was, it was just a fabricated home movie of some kind. Because if it was real, and it was an early form of the Red Room, Just knowing that I was that close to a monster like that will keep me awake for years to come.
Well, that was disturbing. That was disturbing. I can't stop thinking about that last story. That was super disturbing. Hopefully Alfred is okay. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you want to see me do more react videos. Let me know if you want me to do something like what Barry does and do like actual like cop body cam videos. That would be interesting. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Comment down below what you thought the scariest story was. I personally thought the scariest one on the first one was the people smiling and being creepy. And then for obviously the video we just watched, the last story was very disturbing. But yeah, anyway, I love you guys and I'll see you next time.